Welcome to Into the 99 bonus episode. Today, we are going to be discussing the pros and cons of using one commander versus another commander.
Yeah, the two different commanders. By the way, that is Hope. She didn't introduce herself. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Brian.
Well, you probably know.
It's incredibly early again.
Y'all probably know who I is.
So today we're just going to talk about the difference between two really, really common Selesnya commanders. Selvala Explorer Returned and Karametra, God of Harvests. So we'll start it off. We'll say, Brian, I'll let you go with what Karametra does.
Sounds good. So
before you talk about what Karametra does, I just feel, even though I know the Karametra is a Selesnya commander, which is green-white, mind you, I just, for some reason, always assume that Karametra is mono-green, even though I know it's not, but it just feels like it is, just based on what it does. So anyways.
It's a very good ramp commander, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, as I was saying, go ahead, Brian.
So the reason we wanted to first off have this discussion or do this episode is that me and Daniel have both started off where we had a green-white Selesnya deck where we kept asking ourselves, what's the better commander to actually helm this deck?
Yeah, we both did start with Karametra.
And Karametra is a legendary enchantment creature god. She costs 5, 3, green and a white. And as long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, Karametra isn't a creature. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a force or a plains card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So
a really, really good ramp commander. Every time you drop any of your little mana dorks, you're also going to be ramping out actual lands, and you can hit non-basics with this.
I was just going to say, the fact that it specifies forest or plains is pretty tight.
Yeah, so you can get your dual lands, you can get shocks.
Triomes.
Yeah, triomes if it isn't a 3-color deck. You can get...
I'm so dumb.
No, well, it's okay. It's a valid thing, though. It is still will target it regardless, and there are 3-color decks that run Karametra because it's a great one.
You know what? That's true.
Yep.
Consider that.
I'm still pretty sure you can still throw it in there.
There are a lot of really good targets for Karametra, and in a landfall-based deck, I do think it really, really runs well. My problem was, at the time, I wasn't playing a deck that was actually utilizing Karametra enough. So we wanted to talk about what she does versus what Selvala does, and maybe why, if you have a Karametra deck, you should consider Selvala.
Because originally, my Selesnya deck started off as, has always been a green-white enchantment deck, where I mainly tried to focus on enchantment creatures because there's just too many good ones to not include. There's so many that I got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna build 2 decks.
Yeah.
And then I just decided, no, I'm not going to build
focus.
2 decks. Yeah, exactly.
Focus, Brian.
But when I first met Daniel, when we were playing at our LGS, we were having this conversation, and he recommended that I switch it out to Selvala, and I guess we should probably get into actually describe what Selvala does.
Yeah, so Selvala, actually, you don't really see it very much. She's, first off, a cheaper commander. Legendary creature Elf Scout. She is 1 and a green-white for a 2/4, which is pretty cool. She has, first off, a good body to block, but she has an ability called Parlay. Parlay, for every card that it is, it's everyone revealing the top card, generally drawing after. Parlay is each player reveals the top card of his or her library for each, not Parlay, Selvala's Parlay. For each non-land card revealed this way, you add a green mana to your pool and gain a life, then everyone draws.
I love that ability.
It is really, really strong. If you are hitting all of your land drops and you're just playing a nice, slow, normal game of Magic, Selvala comes out turn 3. Turn 4, you play your 4th land, and in a normal pod 4 players, everyone hits a non-land card. You're going into turn 4 with 8 mana, which is exceptionally big.
On a good parlay.
Yeah, well, that's just a perfect situation, right? But
yep.
That is exceptional ramp.
Yeah, it's incredible, especially when you start getting into like later games, and you're being able to tap her and even doubling it. So say the 3 people get a non-land card, that's 3 mana, and then you have say Oh, the enchantment guy. My mind's
Nyx
blank.
Bloom Ancient.
Yeah, the Nyx Bloom Ancient.
Anything like that.
9.
Mana Reflection, which was just reprinted and a great pickup for anyone running a mana-heavy commander like this that like actually does things with mana. You can really, really easily hit into Mana Reflection very early in a Selvala deck. And then if you hit all of it, it's tapping for 8. This is a mana ability. It cannot be interacted with, can't be countered. There's no resolution in between the reveal and the life gain. You can't interact with it. It's a mana ability start to finish.
Well, and if you're thinking about it, that turn 4, when you're actively going to use it, if you come out with 6 mana, you can lay down the Mana Reflection.
Yep. Well, she gets really, really far ahead really fast. And you're always going to be... You have your draw built in, and draw is so important in Commander in general.
And you know what? No one really gets angry.
Yeah, generally it's not a huge. Yeah, it's not a huge target.
Yeah, every single time that somebody has a Selvala out, I'm always like desperate for more draw. And I'm just like, hit the parlay, hit it.
Do you know what? The only time that anyone that appears that anyone's getting mad at the Selvala is when I have Seedborn Muse out.
Yeah, sometimes Selvala's draw and life gain can get out of control. But she's generally pretty cool, I think.
I also always forget when I'm playing against Selvala players that she also has the life gain. And then I'm just like, what's your life? And you're like, 97. And I'm like,
it's really easy
what?
to not remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can get out of control because if you're, like I said, if you're hitting these perfect parlays, that's 4 life a turn and card draw on your turn. You're getting the first access to it, or at the end of an opponent's turn, so you're coming in with Selvala untapped.
Does it ever feel bad hitting all lands though?
Sure does. But again,
but then when you got your land.
Yeah, when you're hitting non-lands, worst case you're drawing for everyone on the table, so it's very easy to underestimate it as a group hug commander when it really isn't.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely not.
It's just a very fast mana accelerant commander. It lets you get a lot of really big and interesting spells out. Brian and I both play very different style Selvala decks. So my Selesnya deck first started out with Karametra. I wanted it to be Elves and Angels. So I thought that I could ramp Karametra out, constantly cast my creatures, get more lands out. It turned into Shylai after that. We won't even go into Shylai today, but Selvala just worked better. She, in my opinion, just ramps the fastest to get the Angels out in my deck and to get those big creatures. If I get something out like an early mirror entity, I'm able to just mana dump like crazy into her. The same with a Luminarch Ascension, anything like that takes this mana. The nonstop green mana is awesome, and all you need is white mana after that for a Luminarch or anything like that.
Yep. And I think the big difference is that, so if we're going to do pros and cons, so a con to Karametra is that you need to have 5 lands. So it might take a couple turns to ramp to get it out.
Yeah, she is more expensive.
But it is nice because she's indestructible. And that's basically a free land ramp every turn for every time you cast a creature that someone either needs to exile or remove in another form.
In a creature-heavy deck, it is definitely something that can't be left alone. If Karametra only functioned once a turn, it would still be very strong. But it's every time you cast. So if you're dumping in all these like white weenies and your Llanowar Elves,
Dorks,
yeah, exactly. Any of those cards, you're gonna be getting just a ton of ramp from it. And this deck goes into stuff that really wants to take advantage of that. You're gonna see Finale of Glories in it, where people can dump that over 10 into the X and get it. You see a lot of White Sun Zenith in a deck like this, where they just have so much mana on deck because they've cast so much and they have these huge spells. This is your Finale of Devastation, your Gen Wave for 60 kind of deck.
Yeah, it can easily, with the small creatures, get out of hand really quickly. And then I guess with Selvala, she's really nice. And the pro to that is that going into turn 4, so after the turn of playing her, unless you have boots out already, you're able to net anywhere from an additional 1 to 4 green mana each and every turn that you have her out.
Well, and as I mentioned before, with her being confused for a group hug commander, because she basically is with the ability to draw, people are more inclined to leave your commander alone. This isn't like Zur the Enchanter or Kallio of the Vast hitting the field, where you have that instant removal target on your head. So you do have a lot of turns with it. Most people don't realize for the first few turns how problematic Selvala actually is.
It's too late, dog.
Yeah. And
that's what Ascetics is about.
And yeah, you've generally gotten all of the value you needed out of her by your first few draws, and you have more than enough mana to recast her.
And do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, like with me, Ages of the Gods, Asceticism, those enchantments that give me and my creatures hexproof.
Well, yeah, talk about how you put yours into... Like, so for me, it was a very natural transition away from it. It was creature heavy, and I just had a faster ramping creature. But Brian's current Selvala deck, very, very different than mine.
So mine, it again is mainly enchantments and enchantment creatures. So again, Ages of the Gods is one colorless and one white, and it gives me hexproof. I think it's a 1/2.
Yeah, something like that.
And then I run just a whole lot of enchantments. So protection for myself, Ghostly Prison. You can't attack me unless you pay 2 colorless for each and every creature that you're swinging at me. And then just Greater Oromancy, which again is a 2 and a white or 1 and a white, but gives my enchanted creatures and enchantments Shroud.
Yeah, and you run so many, like we were talking about earlier, the Nyx Bloom Ancient, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's like I'm able to protect my key pieces, but the thing is that I still find my deck fall short to, say, token decks, things that are able to just create...
go wide faster.
Yeah, but then luckily I have my enchantment Humility out, which I can shut that down and then just beef up my creatures to the point where I can block them and I don't really care.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting style. I do think that if you're going the enchantment route, that Selvala just is better because there's so many good enchantments that are expensive.
And that's the reason why I first went with Karametra, is because she herself is a enchantment creature.
Well, that's what you see. That's why I didn't actually build it that way, is because you normally see it so much as an enchantment, but an enchantment themed deck, but they run so little creatures a lot of the time that you're not really getting the value off of it that you need.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was trying to run like enchantment creatures, things along like the majority of my stuff is enchantment creatures. But yeah, like it's just a night and day from when I switched it from Karametra to Selvala. Just the ability to, well, and I think it's the that I'm always able to get everything out. Like it's not like I can start a hand with 2 lands, and usually
you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very rare that you're stuck holding nothing in a deck like that, because you always have that draw engine available from the command zone.
It is very nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of just what we wanted to quickly talk about. We wanted to just go a very fast talk about Selvala versus Karametra. It really is hard when you've built a deck, you get attached to it. It's very hard to look at a commander, switch it out, and even consider trying something else, because commander's the first thing we generally pick in a deck. Most people don't build a deck backwards and then find a commander that fits the color identity after. So it is really, really hard to look at the deck you built and say, maybe this isn't the most ideal commander. It's one of the hardest self-reflections I find. That was my problem with Prosh in general, just realizing that Prosh wasn't the best commander for the deck anymore.
Yeah, and then sometimes you look at it going, okay, if I'm switching up this commander, what else in the deck needs to go? What's synergized with that commander and doesn't anymore? But easily, I was just using Karametra for the land ramp.
Yep.
I really did not need to change anything.
Well, and I also think the other thing is taking that as an opportunity to reflect on your deck in general, because like if you're switching out your commander, you might have other cards that are just like maybe pet cards that don't really work, and like
they were kind of only in the deck because they were on theme with the commander or something.
Yeah, like if it was just it's for the vibe, less for the actual playability.
Yeah.
Not to say that pet cards are bad, but I just mean like
But it is just sometimes nice to even in the Muxus episode, we talked about how there was finally another cool option for a Goblin commander that wasn't Krenko, because before that, your best options were Krenko or Perforos. And, that was basically it. You didn't see anything else. Even the new Krenko, you almost never saw unless people were trying to play Brawl. I can't even say the word right. That's my disdain for it.
I like Brawl. I won first place, and I think that might be the only reason.
I like it. I win.
Yeah, exactly.
I did.
So you guys heard it here first. Brian's the king of Brawl.
Yeah. Feel free to challenge his
Brawl
reign.
skills.
Oh, I have no Brawl decks.
His
it's
glory.
all a ruse. He's the king.
His glory.
But
all hail.
But no, yeah. Let us know if there's any commanders that really aren't doing what they need to in your deck. And if you've ever tried Selvala or Karametra, what do you think of the difference between them?
Yeah, which one do you
I ran out of
choose?
breath.
Which one do you choose to
Daniel
helm your
broke.
deck? And which one do you think is the best? Or which one do you prefer over the other? We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And again, you can always share it with any of us on our social media accounts.
I was gonna say I also want to hear from anyone if they're impressed with how professional Brian could be while I was laughing at Daniel forgetting how to breathe and be a normal human being.
Sometimes words are hard.
Yeah, into the 99. That's where I want to hear about it.
Thank you guys so much. And yeah, if you have a list of either of these, I would love to see it because, like I said, Brian and I both have Selvala decks, extremely different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what you built.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye.